topic is recall healing. Really, it's just a word that means to recall something you've forgotten, and that the stuff you've forgotten, not just in your own lifetime, but things that have been forgotten in our family, in our family tree, and how that can affect our lives. There's a lot of things that happen to us in our lives, and we don't know why. And a lot of it may seem unfair, and we don't know why. Okay, and so we can start to take on a lot of confusion or make some assumptions about why things happen in our life. And so recall healing is a modality. It's an approach to understanding the mind-body connection to our life, which would include spiritual things, emotional things, physical things, coincidences, why things happen, when they do. We're living out a life of a story that has themes, it has characters that play in our lives, and we're the main character, and we are often driven by things that we're not even aware of. So tonight is a look through the lens of recall healing, a modality that looks at the mind-body connection to things that going on in our life, right? So the purpose of it is to get awareness and to get freedom. The more we are aware, the more we have a free choice, and the more we have free choice, the more we have freedom. So recall healing is a pretty comprehensive view, and it takes a biological point of view oftentimes to understand ourselves, okay? One of the most interesting parts to me about this is it looks at why we get sick, but it's not limited to why we get sick. That's just a facet of our life. All of us get sick, but it's not what our life is about, right? So recall healing, or the mind-body understanding, is a look through. It's a curiosity about what's really going on. It's about trying to understand more truth about what's really going on in our lives. Okay. So we're going to look at the three parts of that and a little bit of the history, and then we'll get into what I would say is the most important part, which would be actually do a little bit of work. Okay. So probably 2013, 2012, 2013 is when I was first introduced to this, and it was synchronistic. It wasn't something I was looking for. I was a therapist doing marriage and family counseling, and I have a license in counseling, and so I was not looking to try to understand why people have physical ailments, and I just showed up. So it's like it showed up in my life for me to share with other people. So a longer story, I can talk about that at some other point. But basically, recall healing looks at 4 layers, and we could use the iceberg as an example to look at this. Think of this as an iceberg, and here's the water line. And so when somebody comes to a doctor and they have, let's say they have lower back pain, they go see a chiropractor, or they have a migraine, or they have sleep apnea, or whatever it is that they have, or maybe they have a child that has oppositional defiance, any problem that we're having, the first thing we notice is the symptom. Okay, the headache of the migraine, the lower back pain from a backache, and so we assume that that's the extent of it. That if I have a cancer, even that it's a physical issue, and that maybe we'd say it's genetic, and that it's inherited, and we would kind of think of it that way. Maybe we would consider stress as a possibility, but conventional wisdom ends kind of there. And things like chemotherapy, medication, currently is sort of the market demands, for more or less the market demands an intervention that you would use medicine, okay? Even though when we see a commercial on TV, 3/4 of the commercial is about how the medication could kill you. But then the person is in the commercial, looks really alive and happy, right? So you're kind of like in a trance, and so you pick up on the parts that you want to see, and you kind of like ignore the other parts, and you think there's no other options, no alternatives, right? Although alternative medicine is gaining ground, and a lot of people looking for other ways. But then the problem with that is how many thousands of different remedies do you see advertised all the time? And it's again somebody else trying to sell you something, okay? So I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to help you think differently about your life and be more proactive and empowered about what you can do differently You know, of course, nutrition is a factor. You know, the toxins in the environment are a factor. But what we're looking through the lens of biology and psychology tonight. Okay, the lens of biology, the lens of psychology tonight. So if you have a problem, let's just say pick migraine for an example. It's more commonly understood that migraine probably has a psychosomatic component. What does that mean? It means that there's something going on in your mind, like stress, that would be affecting you, and then you would have a migraine headache. That's sort of commonly accepted as a possibility. But when you talk about cancer, it's not as commonly considered as a possibility. Okay. So let's take the tip of the iceberg. So under the iceberg, we look at our lifetime. What happened in your life that keeps happening? What happened in your life recently, right around the time you got sick? Okay. What is going on in your life around the time that you start to have, like for me, last year I was having, I have a dog and I love to throw the tennis ball with my dog, and you know, I pride myself on being pretty good at it. And so last year I couldn't throw the tennis ball. I mean, it just hurt. It was really hurtful. It hurt me. And I was thinking to myself, I'm just getting older. That was the thought that came to my mind. But then I remembered what I've been learning. I said, no. So I started to think about, what's the conflict? What conflict might I be having that's in my body that's showing up this way? So in my lifetime, well, I was dealing with some stuff with my wife and dealing with some stuff about feeling powerless, things like that. And so as I started to work on my conflicts I was having with my wife, because shoulder is representative of what's going on with who is next to you side by side, shoulder to shoulder. Who is in your life shoulder to shoulder you have a problem with? Take a look at it. And so as I looked at that and I started to become more aware of that part of my life, now I can throw the ball, no problem. So it wasn't age, but that's what culture would say. I'm 51 years old. Oh, you got Drew Brees problem, right? Yeah, right. Not exactly. Not exactly. Rotator cuff, yeah, it was too much of that. But that's not what it was, okay? But as I worked through my conflict, and some of it I became aware of it, some of it I did some techniques that I can show you tonight that helped me let go of the trapped emotions I was carrying in my body around stress, okay? So tonight we're looking through the window of what's going on emotionally and mentally and biologically that's going on, explain things. So in your lifetime. And then we look a little deeper, what's called the project purpose. It's what happened between your parents around your conception. It's downloaded into your brain and your body as if it's you. Okay, it's a function of biology. Biology likes adaptation. And so it's good for me to be prepared for life outside of my mother's womb. And that starts by my brain and body absorbing the information going on around my mother and my father. And my biological self likes to look for solutions to that. Okay, so as an example, many times, even professionally, this will show up. If you come from a family where they weren't educated, you might become a teacher. So biology likes to give us solutions, or I would say God likes to give us solution to problems above in the family tree, and the children below become the solution. Just like, for example, God told David, "You're not going to build my temple," but his son did. So the dream that was in David manifests in Solomon's life. If you look at an example from the Old Testament. Okay, when I was a kid, my mom wanted to go to San Francisco, and she never did. And around the time she wanted to, I go to San Francisco, not even knowing about this. I wanted to be an artist when I was younger. My daughter's becoming an artist. Okay, my mother was a social worker when she got pregnant out of wedlock right after she graduated. She had a job as a social worker, and she lost her job. So then I became a kind of a social worker as a career. So we look at these things. Where do they come from? Okay. And these are solutions, and they're also problems. So the problems my family didn't solve, I can be the problem bearer or the problem solver. It can go both ways. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so this is in my lifetime. This is called the project purpose. is the purpose by which I subconsciously take on a project or a purpose of unfinished business between my mother and my father around the conception. Now, it's before and after that, but I'm just being simplistic tonight. So this is in my life timeline. Okay, project purpose. Technically speaking, it's 18 months before I'm born to the first year of life. What's going on between my mother and my father can set up a pattern in my life forever. Okay? So one of my issues is I've struggled always feeling like a failure. Okay? And I've wrestled with memory issues. I have a hard time with my memory. I lose keys all the time. Okay, I lost a job over losing keys. My mother lost her job when she got pregnant for me. Okay, she lost the keys to the building. She had a car that was on. She was buying a Mustang convertible at the time because she got pregnant out of wedlock. She lost the keys. She had to quit her job because she was pregnant for me. She moved, and in the middle of all that, they split up anyway. And so she was wrestling probably with indecisiveness and a conflict with direction. What's she gonna do? In my life, this is, if you watch me all the time, this is me. You get me in a grocery store, you know, it takes me a long time I hate being pushed. They were pushed into a marriage. So I feel pushed easily. If somebody tries to push me into a decision, I get very resistant. Where does all this come from? It comes from, we could say, stuff that happened in my life, some things that have happened that have been harmful, hurtful, stuff that happened to my parents. I mean, I'm a combination of their genetics, and I carry the code of their life in me. It's not just material code. It's experiential code. It's environmental code. Okay, it's not just the hard material, eye color, skin color stuff. Okay, even all that's adaptation as well. Why do people that live on the poles have lighter skin? Why do people at the equator have darker skin? It's adaptation. Okay, it's micro adaptation. Okay. Okay, and then we look at what they call our generational patterns. And there's a system for this that's been discovered where you can look at your birth order and what birth order are you, and you can compare your birth order to the birth orders of your aunts and your uncles on your parents and on your mother and your father's side, your grandparents, your grandmother, grandfather, any ancestors on your family tree that share your birth order. Often you will struggle with things at the times they did when they were that age. So we have a commonality in our family tree, very precise at times. And the less they resolve their conflicts, the more we carry. Okay? I got a guy, one of my clients, he always feels like he's an outcast, like he's being flushed. And his name sounds like the toilet. I'm not gonna tell you what his name is, but his name sounds like his problem. Even the way we're named. I had a client, her name was Juju, and she felt cursed. I'm like, well, your name is Juju. Think about it. Why did they name you Juju? Oh, it's after my auntie. Well, what was her life like? It's as if the family is saying, be like her, okay? So we want to look at the way we talk even about our lives. The way we talk about our lives even gives away some of the secrets of the family tree, okay? So you've ever heard it said, we're sick as our secrets? Okay, well, shame, guilt, especially in the Catholic community, or Christian community, you know, if you do something that's not right, it's really hard to be open and honest about that stuff. All right, so so we've got timeline, which is, we can get a little more clear about that in a second, project purpose, generational patterns, and then I said there was 4 parts. This is what we see is only like 90% of the problem. Okay. Now the cool thing is that we have some tools we can take a look at what's going on and help decipher the code. You can start to unpack the code. So recalling, well, I went on a seminar, a workshop this weekend, and so as we were doing our work, I had some flashes, some memories come to mind, okay? And one of those was a memory of being with my biological father, who would only come around occasionally. And I had a memory of him being in a fancy car with him on a little drive to go to eat lunch or something. And I remember him playing with the cruise control. And as he was playing with the cruise control, I didn't know he was doing that. All I could see was he was trying to show off and show how the gas would do this and this without his foot on the gas, okay? So it's a memory I have of him and I. It's not just a memory. It symbolically represents our relationship. It symbolically represents him in my life. It was yes, no, gas, no gas. Plus, it was invisible. There was no foot, no dad in my life. So if you think about as you remember some of these things, what happens is you start to unpack the conflict, and the energy that was taking you down this path can be erased or deleted at times. Why do we do this work? Is to get freer. How do you get freer? By deleting programs. If you don't know you're running a program, you're going to be run by that program until you become aware of it. And awareness sometimes alone is deleting. As I discovered some of this stuff, and I was talking to Bridget, there was a lot of heat coming off of my body. What's that? That's the discharging of that energy of that program. Okay. Is everybody kind of with me so far? Okay. So another discovery that I made was I had wrestled with finances all of my life. Well, my father didn't provide for me himself. My biological father, in nature, the father and the mother is responsible for the baby in nature. And if my biological father didn't take care of me, I would wrestle with believing I'm not worthy of being taken care of, that God's not going to take care of me, that I have to fend for myself, like I'm a lone wolf, okay? And even if somebody wants to try to take care of me, I would be very suspicious. Why? Because I was given up, okay? This is subconscious stuff. And so one of the things I learned was my father, when he would come around, he was in a fancy outfit, he had fancy shoes, fancy, expensive pants. He would wear the best of everything. He would drive a nice car, but I would not, and that my mom would tell me, don't ask him for anything. Okay, what is that? What was I programming in my mind up here? I'm a burden. I'm a burden to this man. I'm lucky he gave me life, that's about it. Okay, but don't ask him for nothing because you're gonna cause trouble. Okay, so how would that affect you? How would that translate into the rest of your life? Plus, I thought, he has money, he doesn't take care of me. But if I have money, that's going to be a bad thing. It would mean the same. If I have money, it means I'm not going to take care of nobody. So all these programs get intertwined into my way of living, but not consciously. Okay, it's like as if I had a lot of money, they would leave me, and I'd be all alone. And so we play with these ideas, and we do our best. And if you feel it, if as I'm talking, you feel something going on with you, it's your story too. It's the energy of your story. Okay? And so I'm very interested in freedom, and sometimes too interested. Why would that be? Because they felt trapped. My biological father felt trapped. My mother felt like torn. Do I get married? Do I not get married? He felt torn. Do I get married? Not get married? He didn't really want to get married. Okay? She didn't really want to leave her mama. She didn't want to leave her mama. I come out with flat feet. Why flat feet? What does flat feet have to do with my story? Well, sometimes the unresolved conflicts show up in the body. What do feet represent? Feet represent my contact with the earth. In biology, earth is mama. Okay, so my mother, she didn't want to leave her mother. And it's represented in flat feet, is to have more contact with my mother. You ever go to the beach and you go, oh, that feels good. Or you get in the water and it feels really good. Or you go to the beach and you don't want to get in the water. It means you don't want to be by your mom. Okay, all these things really do resonate with us. But city folks have lost touch with their environment. Okay? Make sense? Okay? Moses didn't live in urban America. Abraham, he lived in tents. They watched nature. They understood things like this. And we've forgotten a lot of the wisdom of the ancient people. And so the more I understand it, so I didn't know why the reason why I thought I had flat feet is because I'm cursed. I was an athletic kid. I wanted to play baseball, okay? My dad was playing baseball. I think he might have played for LSU baseball. I'm not sure. My mother doesn't want to talk about it. So then I have no memory, which is why I would program me not to have memory. She wanted to forget. So I live with a struggle of memory. My father was a baseball player, played at LSU, okay? And around the time I wanted to play big leagues, I had all kind of problems with my feet. So I live out the unresolved conflicts of them. And it goes all the way back to Adam. And we know this from Scripture. We're living in a fallen world. And here is just the evidence of that. And if it's, and what it does for me is it deepens my dependency on God, my Father. It deepens my understanding of, it's not my fault I'm like this. It didn't make me this way. But sin did. And that's the enemy. Okay? It deformed us. It literally deformed us. Okay, y'all with me? So knowing this stuff, because I would go to the doctor and say, doctor, why do I have a flat feet? Well, he says, you must have been cramped in your mama's belly. Why was it twisted when I was like this? You probably didn't move it around enough when you were in the baby's womb. Well, the doctor tells me that it's my fault. To my brain, it's my fault I didn't move around enough. Okay? And it's not true. It's just, he doesn't know. He feels compelled to tell me what he thinks. He just made it up. In his mind, it makes sense. Oh, you were too cramped in your mama's belly. All my fault. What am I do with that? Okay. So in this model, we preach no guilt, no blame, and no victim. I'm not a victim of what my parents did or didn't do. They were doing the best they could with the resources they had. As am I. Okay? If the devil's involved, then it's the devil's fault. If they have volitional control, they know they're doing it, and they do it anyway, that's different. I'm talking about ignorance, the kind Jesus talked about. Father, forgive them, they know not what they do, versus brood of vipers. Okay? No guilt, no blame, there's no victim. And in generational patterns, we say in the Christian world, I'm born in Adam or in Christ. Okay? Recently, there's a drama going on in our family about some suspicion of wrongdoing. And so I'm instead of just blaming, this person for this thing, I'm like, what's in me that's this showing up in my life? And so as we've talked about it, there's some things that when I was younger, I stole. God's bringing to my mind to confess. Because if I have sin on me still that I have not brought to the blood, it's still not under the blood. You got to bring it to the blood if you want it under the blood. And so it's stuff I have not remembered. I have not thought about in a while. As a kid, I stole a Coke sign from a neighbor. And when I realized hey, I don't want to be cursed with this, so I gave it away. And it was worth $500. I'm like, the curse is worth way more than $500. I get it right. We need to evaluate ourselves. That's why we do confession, right? Okay, so let's do. Everybody have a handle on this. So in review, the problem we see is never the full problem. It's just a piece of a problem. It's a piece of a puzzle. And we want revelation. We want to get revelation about how to get freer in this life. Be our best selves.